Greetings, Rev J here. Thank you for joining me for your middle of the month reading, your Tarot by Tribe series. I'm going to be doing these just a little bit different for this mid-month of April, and just first want to thank you all for being here. This is an M for mature audiences only channel, so please only be watching it if you are a legal adult wherever you are, and if you're also okay with strong messages and language, because occasionally they are. I'm going to be doing these messages just a little bit different here for the middle of the month. I've gotten tons of inquiries, people asking me pretty similar questions or lines of questioning, and so I've been putting together a slightly different spread. I'm actually going to be doing 12 separate videos instead of my usual 4 by tribal element, where I'm going to be breaking these down using a 5-card spread, where we actually take apart what the theme is for the month. I'm only going to be using major arcana for that, so that we can get a really strong theme of what Mercury Retrograde is all about. So this is actually probably going to carry beyond the second part of April for most of y'all. This is to kind of help you get through some of the things that might be otherwise quite tricky. We're also going to cover what you're leaving in the past, what your lessons are, what you're carrying forward for a better future, what's been on your mind, mental blocks primarily, and we're also going to be looking at subconscious blocks. And so basically this is going to be like your way to hack out of anything that might otherwise be somewhat precarious and catching you at unawares during Mercury retrograde. So you might also want to check, in addition to your sun, your moon, and your rising, my Mercury retrograde survival kit. It's an 11-minute video. It's actually linked in the description box below. And also just to let you know, if I have enough time this weekend, I might also be doing separate relationship readings or love readings for all y'all too. So I'm trying to get to that. It's just been really busy. I do business consulting too, and I've been in a business boot camp, and I'm like recovering from being on some antibiotics too, so it's just been a really hectic time for me. But I really appreciate all of you who've been there for me, and all of you who support my channel and share my content. Huge thanks to those of you who have ordered personal readings from me, and especially those who have sent me cash tips too. Really appreciate you guys and gals and others, and you've just made it really great for me. I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary of this YouTube channel, and it's been wonderful. So thanks for being there for me. I love being there for you, and I'll catch you on the inside of your reading. Hey, what's up, Aries? Happy birthday to all y'all who are still celebrating. I'm just shuffling decks here for you. I have basically pulled out the majors to give us a theme for your Mercury retrograde. And then with the remainder of the deck, we're actually going to be looking at 4 other things to help you navigate this part of the month. And also, I will just say it should carry you through all of Mercury retrograde. This is sort of thematic, but we're going to be looking at anything that's on the mind that could be like a mental block at this time. We're going to be looking at subconscious blocks. We're going to be looking at what you're kind of getting rid of as a result of this Mercury retrograde, and also what your lesson is to be carried forward into the future. So I'm just shuffling your cards here and trying to neutralize some of the energy here, and I'm just going to stop the video once I lay the cards down, and then I'm going to catch it from a different angle so you can hopefully see some of the cards. So just getting ready to lay those down here for you. Scary to need to know. Well, that's weird. I was just shuffling and the hangman just flew out and flipped itself over. And it was kind of looking at me like this, though. Like it was upside down is how it was facing me. And I'm not really reading reversals with the themes, per se, but that did just flip itself out as a reversal. And I'm just hearing some of y'all are tired of feeling like you're in some freaking limbo. And that the biggest challenge right now might be learning how to temper some of that energy Okay, so let's just see if that even comes up again. But getting ready to lay your majors down. Okay. Alright, Aries, just laying your cards down here. Okay, just going to hit pause here, and I'm going to get you a different angle. Still here, just going to flip the camera, and we're going to look at them together. So, wow. That's your theme. This is the mental block. This is the subconscious block. This is what you're leaving behind you. And this is the lesson going forward. So, Aries, we're hearing a lot about completion. This is the very end of the majors here that's showing up in your reading. And, wow, that's just really kind of cool. It's really showing us something here. I will mention there's a couple of threes that did show up here in the reading, and that's not always an indicator of a triangulated situation, but sometimes it is. And we're hearing about like a major ending to that in the past, and that even if some of that is still looming here, because it looks like there might have been some struggle that was involved, what we're really being told right now is that whatever this was that might have been heartbreaking, it's coming to an end. And they're saying in some cases it's really about knowing when to fight and when to put the sword down. What's coming up here, showing up on the mind as a potential sticking point, if you will. This is really where the mental block is somebody just being a little bit reckless prematurely with whatever it is they think they're observing or seeing. So I have to say there's just a lot of swords. They're showing up right now in this time period, and they're saying there might be a good chance that, I was hearing Gemini, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a Gemini. This is a general reading for people. But we're definitely hearing about situations where people that have strong air in their constitution might be somehow involved, because we're literally seeing, a sword card here as a lesson in the future, a sword card here as a lesson in the past, and a sword card here as potential sort of mental obstacle or hang-up point. And so, I'm hearing in some cases here, they keep showing me Gemini. I think it might have something to do with the 2 3s
And, you know, the third house, because the third house a lot of times could have to do with Gemini. It's, you know, it's a mercurial sort of thing, but you know, we're hearing about a situation that may have had to do with some level of immaturity and just knowing when it makes sense to even use one of these sharp objects here, which a lot of times is just verbal communication. And so I'm hearing a really strong story here about people that have had some challenges. They're talking a lot about communication for me, but I'm also hearing about a triangulated situation for some people where, you know, it's finally coming to an end. It's finally getting to a point where, you know, whatever it is that you feel like you might have lost in that communication or in that relationship is now coming to an end. And they're saying that the biggest challenge for a lot of you all here has more to do with actually how you allow yourself to perceive it, because what's showing up here in your subconscious blocks it looks like a really good time. And so I'm hearing in some cases it's like the Aries learning that it's okay for things to have ended and to find themselves in new situations where, you know, we don't necessarily have to draw on these like sharp weapons and, you know, either find ourselves like this. You know, I don't know how well you can see with those characters there, but, you know, somebody looks like they got their ass whooped here or got their ass chewed out, you know, and that could be really, you know, the result of whatever this was here that we're leaving behind us now. But in other cases, it's about, you know, not being this character. But we're hearing that the lesson in all of this has been one about when things are worth it and when it makes sense to defend and when it makes sense to just like not. And so they're saying it's kind of a fine balance, because this person here, you know, if this is you, whether or not you have a lot of air in your chart, this is a person here that, you know, they're clever and they're ready to do something. And in some cases, they can be a little bit inexperienced with how they go about taking their motions forward, especially when they're showing up like this. And so there's a lot of cautions with communication here. They're just saying you've learned so much about how to wield that sword, Aries, and that right now, you know, subconsciously, you might even be your own worst enemy, because they're saying that, you know, it could be a good time going on and just coming after what might have been really difficult and what you learned from the price of that battle and those decisions that were made. It might be hard to just, you know, relax and have a good time. And so I think that the really strong emphasis here is in knowing that all these things have been completed. Many things have come to a culmination or an end. And they're saying that you deserve to enjoy it. So that right there is really something beautiful to learn. And I think that if I had to come up with an overall practical advice for a message like this, it would just be knowing that you are protected in it somehow. Like, it's interesting too, because really, with exception of this last card here, the subconscious card, you know, what's blocking subconsciously, every single card, there's somebody holding swords, or in this case being treated like a pincushion. And even here, the theme is somebody who has the swords, they've got it, but they're not doing anything. It's like they've realized where their lessons are. They've learned where the allegiance is. They feel a sense of completion. And although they know how to use these sharp objects, they are more leaning to the high lessons that they've learned. And that's literally what's sustaining them. They're choosing to not do anything with these sharp metal objects in their hands that, I mean, speaking of double edge, these actually have pointers on both sides here. And this person looks like they're just kind of like putting it down, So the caution here is just knowing that not all battles are worth fighting, especially if you're feeling, like you're still carrying something that maybe hasn't quite officially left. You might still feel that ache. And they're just saying, no, that it's a different time. So we can really replace this with this, because the block is just not accepting that a good time is here now that something has been completed. So that's what I've got for you. I'm going to keep these kind of short here, Aries. I hope you liked this style reading, and I hope it made sense for you. And if I have more time, I might actually come back with a relationship reading for the second half of the month here. And I really appreciate your thumbs up and sharing my content and subscribing. Hit me up if I can do a personal reading for you. I'd love to do it. And if I don't hear from you, take care. God bless, and I'll catch you again in a couple weeks. I'm back for your monthly reading.